I've been through the rain and I weathered the storm, I'm not looking to stop. My God sent the angels, I'm good when I move like I move with the mob. Tears in the valley, this life is a jungle, I pray to the top. Life is a marathon, I'm running to them, I'm shaking off weights and I'm done with the fear.
This is for the kingdom builders, the entrepreneurs who are called to make an impact bigger than just money alone. The ones who are overcoming trials and turning past failures into future success stories. It's for the bold who refuse to let fear overcome faith. This is Impact Kingdom. All right, my friends, we are back. Episode 9 of Impact Kingdom. So glad you can be here. It is time to get into it. And today I want to talk about a story from the Bible where Jesus fed the 5,000. And so Jesus is out preaching. There's a big crowd that comes. You know, they're coming from everywhere. They want to hear Jesus preach, right? They don't care about the time of day. They don't care about how long it's going to be, whatever it may be. Think of like your Sunday service and it goes on for a full day, right? So they get there, this crowd, they're listening to Jesus preach, listening to him talk, like they're in it, right? Next thing you know, it's getting later, probably later in the afternoon, probably towards dinner time, whatever it may be. And the disciples come to Jesus, you know, let them know like, hey, the crowd's like, they're going to be hungry. We need to stop this here. We need to end the sermon, like let people get going so that way they can go and get food. And you just see that like the disciples are worried about that need, that hunger, while Jesus is preaching on what actually matters, right? So you see the distraction that's happening there. And then you see Jesus tell them, cool, well, let's go, let's get food for all these people. And then the first thing that happens is disciples talk about, well, that would take a year's worth of wages to be able to feed this entire crowd, right? So there's doubt, right? There's things that are seeking in. And so that happens. And then as we all know how the story ends, you know, disciples, they take some food from a young boy. Jesus blesses it. They break it up, they hand it out, and next thing you know, a miracle happens to where that food, the small amount of food that they have, ends up feeding 5,000 plus people. And it's probably more than that when you actually look at the numbers, because then they just recorded, you know, they only counted men when they counted numbers back then. And so you see this miracle happen, you see all these people get fed, and it's a story that's told over and over again in the Gospels and the Bible, and so it's a very important lesson here. And so I want to put a spin on it here and kind of talk about 4 stages that happen here that are really critical, because they're stages that we go through in business. They're stages that we go through in leadership. Things that we go through as we want a miracle to happen in our lives and happen in our business. And not even just a miracle, but just success. Let's be real, right? Like there's a number you may want to hit. There's a target you have. There's a goal. There's an outcome that you want. And you feel the calling of God telling you like, hey, this is possible. This is what's going to happen. And that's how I felt in a lot of different things in my life and a lot of business ventures and things like that. It's like you feel like, man, I'm called to do this. I know I'm supposed to do this. It's going to take a miracle, right? I don't know how I'm going to do it. And there are phases that we go through. And so you see the first phase that happens in the story is one of doubt. And you see that with the disciples, right? The people who are closest to Jesus, the people that have seen him already perform miracles, that have been with him, that have slept outside with him, that have lived with him, right? The closest people to him, when the crowd gets hungry and Jesus says that we're going to feed them, their first reaction is doubt. And so they're the people that should have been like, cool, Jesus said we're going to feed them. Maybe bread's going to rain down from the sky. Something's going to happen. These people are getting fed, right? But we see the disciples, their first response to the calling is doubt. And this often happens to us in business, right? You know, you get this big idea or you get this calling or you pray and you get an answer and you get like, hey, you're supposed to step out and do this. And the first thing that happens is doubt, right? You get this big vision of like, hey, if I do this, like I know I'm called to have this purpose, and maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, a decade from now. But the first thing you look at is you look at your immediate resources, look at what's actually happening in your life right now, and you have doubt. And the cool part about that first phase is that hearing that the disciples also had doubt and that they were the closest people to Jesus, right? They were his best friends, they were his students. That makes us realize that it's actually okay. Right? Like it's not, it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad person when we first encounter a big promise or a big miracle or something that we're seeking with doubt, because even the disciples did it and they were the closest people to a living miracle, right? To Jesus. Now, if you stay there, that's where it's a problem, right? If you're just going to constantly doubt and not move forward from there, that's when we have an issue. And so the next part of the story that we see, and it's something that's not talked about a lot, it's the boy who they took the food from, right? So they asked around who has food, and this boy comes with this small little basket of food that he probably just brought for himself and his family, and a small amount of food, not nearly enough to feed 5,000 plus people, right? Just enough for probably him and a few other people. And they tell that boy, hey, we need it, right? Can we have it? And the boy offers his up and gives it to them. And so what we see here, second part, is sacrifice. And we see that that boy had enough faith to sacrifice and say, cool, I have this small amount, but for the greater good, for the greater mission, for what you guys need, it is yours, right? Not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing that it's going to come back to him and he's going to still be fed. He gives up his food to the disciples because he was asked for it. And so that's the second thing that happens is like we will be called to sacrifice, right? We get a big vision, we get a big mission. There's going to be doubts. And the next thing that's going to happen is not going to be God showing you some great plan on how is this going to actually happen and what you have to do and all those different things. The next thing that's probably going to happen is there's going to be some level of sacrifice. And we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to get past our doubt to still make the sacrifice? And then we move into the third phase. We see that happens, and this is really beautiful because of who does it. But it's action. It's faith led by action. And so the disciples come back to Jesus and they say, cool, this is all we have. We have 5 loaves. We have this, a couple fish. Like, this is what we have. And Jesus says, cool. He breaks the bread and says, go hand it out. And even though they had doubt, even though it makes no sense, there's 5,000 people. What am I going to do with 5 loaves of bread that are broken up, right? Maybe we'll give everyone a crumb and just see what happens. They still took action because of their faith. They didn't say, no, this isn't going to work. They didn't say, no, I'm not going to follow that game plan. No, I'm going to do it my own way. Or, hey, I have a better idea. Let me do what I think is actually going to work. They didn't do all of that, even though they had doubt, right? Because of that little boy's sacrifice and because of the instructions that they didn't got after the sacrifice was made, they took action and they did what they were told to do. And because of this brings us to the fourth thing of the story that happens is there's overflow. So we see the miracle work, right? We see that they just keep handing out the food. And next thing you know, the basket just never gets empty, right? It just keeps reappearing. There's food for everyone. Everyone in that crowd ate. And this is the beautiful part is not only did God meet their needs, at the end of it, what happened? There were 12 baskets full left over. Kind of a coincidence of how many disciples there were, right? 12. So 12 baskets full are left over after everyone in the crowd, after the miracle happened, after everyone had their needs met, there was still overflow. And we see this happen time and time after again when we step into faith and we actually take action. So I hope this story, just kind of hearing it in different terms of, Jesus feeding the 5,000, because we hear it all over and over and over again. But I hope you can see how this can resonate with us as kingdom builders, as people that are Christians and running businesses and trying to make impact in the world, right? We must be able to, even though we're going to doubt at first, when we get a calling, when we doubt it, we must be able to sacrifice, step into faith and take action, and be willing to be patient and watch how God will overflow in your life and in your business. All right, guys, thanks for tuning into episode 9. I will see you on the next one. As always, if you can, subscribe, share this with another business owner that you think it might be a good impact message for, and comment. Let me know if you have any suggestions or anything coming up, and super excited to hear from you guys. Take care.